All right, welcome back. Right now, it is unclear what's going to happen on Monday, whether or not Judge Kavanaugh's accuser will or will not testify at a public hearing. Will Republicans bend and have the FBI do the investigation like they did with Anita Hill? Or will she show up? And if she does show up, Republican Maine Senator Susan Collins, she says her preference would be that both sides obviously would not just be able to testify, but also would have their attorneys present to do some of the questioning. And that got us to thinking. So I brought in two of our regulars here to take a look at how, if they were counsel for the respective witnesses, how they would go about inquisition, for lack of a better word. Jim Kasuris, he's a criminal defense attorney. You know that. He's based out of Manhattan. He sits on the board of directors of the New York City Criminal Bar Association. He also frequently lectures at the New York Law School and bar associations in Queens and New York City. He himself, a former assistant district attorney in the city. Doug Von Oist, he's a founding partner of Carson Von Oist. He focuses on corporate misconduct. He was selected by the Legal 500, one of the most influential trial lawyers in the country. He also a former assistant district attorney out on the island. So both of these guys have been on both sides of this and inside courtrooms on both sides as well. So I'm going to start off with Jimmy. So this is what we're going to do. Jimmy's going to take the position where he is representing Dr. Ford, and Doug will take the position where he's representing Judge Kavanaugh. And in effect, they will have the person on the other side. In the case of Jimmy, he will have Mr. Kavanaugh, where he'll be posing questions to, and Doug, he'll be posing questions to Dr. Ford. Let's start off with Jimmy. Okay, so before we even get into some of the questions, you got the theater of the room. What do you want conveyed at the end of your Q&A with Kavanaugh as it relates to how they want to see your client and how they want to see him?
Well, first of all, I want to ask him why he has not been an outspoken supporter of an investigation by the FBI. He's trying to become a Supreme Court justice. He's been a justice for so long. The cases over which he presides, certainly from a criminal standpoint or any standpoint, depend on the facts. And the way the facts come out are through investigation.
All right, so let's play on. Mr. Kasuris, it's not for me to judge. If the FBI is going to get involved, that's at the discretion of the president, and that's the president's decision, his and his alone.
Understood, Judge, but what I'm asking you is not whether it's yours to judge. I'm asking your opinion. Why would you not support a full investigation by the FBI?
I just don't believe, at the end of the day, it's my position to tell another agency, of which I may be doing rulings, how they should or should not conduct their business, let alone tell the executive branch how they should as well.
Judge, I understand that, but with all due respect, I think you're dodging the question. I'm not asking you what you should be telling anybody. I'm not asking you to tell them to do anything. I'm simply asking you, a very, very serious allegation has been made against an individual who is looking for a lifetime appointment on the highest court of this land.
Did you watch the confirmation hearings? I don't answer questions.
I understand that. Well, here you have to answer questions. And so I'm asking you, why would you not support a full investigation?
I'm concerned as to precedent also where this would go. If unfounded claims every single time they were to come up, are we going to stop proceedings every single time? And if in the 11th hour somebody makes a baseless claim, are we then supposed to stop every confirmation until every single person's allegation without any substantiation or any second source or anything else is going to hold this up? At the end, I have a reputation too. What about my name?
Well, your name would be cleared through a thorough investigation if these were unfounded, sir. And quite frankly, when an allegation like this gets made, yes. The United States of America and its citizens want an investigation. But okay, so let's leave that alone for a minute. There have been reports that Dr. Ford has taken and passed a lie detector test. Are you willing to do so?
No one's asked me to do so. I'm going to refer this to the authorities as to whether or not they think it's appropriate.
Okay, again, I would only ask you, Judge, and Judge...
And as far as I know, lie detector tests are not always accurate, and many law enforcement doesn't even use them as tools in court investigations.
Well, you're misinformed, because actually the FBI does use it, Homeland Security does use it, and our government does use it in the hiring, firing, and maintaining of employment for many of its representatives. And as you know, as a federal judge, even in some states under federal law, lie detector tests are admissible. But let me ask you again, Judge. It's a very simple question. Are you willing to take a lie detector test, yes or no?
Sure.
Okay, great. We'll have that administered to you over the break. Let me ask you some perimeter questions now, okay? Because obviously if I ask you if you did it, you'll say no.
And they're telling me the beatdown from Doug for me is also, I don't have too many minutes here, so let's speed along with your inquisition, sir.
Okay, well,
yes.
You went to an all-boys prep school.
Yes.
Was there excessive drinking at that school?
I know that there was alcohol consumption. I can't speak to the degree.
Oh, I'm sorry, you did attend the school, did you not?
I did not consume like many of my classmates, as I've been led to understand.
So tell us what you meant in your speech when you said that the standard phrase for Georgetown Prep is whatever happens at Georgetown Prep stays at Georgetown Prep.
Mr. Koussouris, you could not possibly have lived such a sheltered life that you do know that there are phrases attached to different schools where teen boys are attached
well, then
that
let me
don't
ask
necessarily
you,
carry the connotation where you're implying.
Then let me ask you about your friend, Mr. Judge, who was supposedly at the location when you are
the
alleged
same
to have
gentleman
committed
who
this.
says that he did not remember any such incident and doesn't place me in that room as well.
No, the same individual who said that because of that school, he was lured into excessive alcoholism and much debauchery that has been described as going on at that school.
You'll have to ask Mr. Judge about that.
Were girls from a Catholic school nearby invited to Georgetown Prep for parties?
Yes.
And did you attend those parties?
On occasion.
And during those parties, was there drinking?
I believe so.
You believe so. Do you not remember?
You're going back 35 years ago.
And you're telling this committee that you don't remember whether there was drinking involved when girls, underage girls,
I do
were
not
brought
remember
to
the
Georgetown
details
Prep.
of parties 35 years ago in high school, no.
Regardless of whether you deny this or not, do you recall Dr. Ford from those years back?
I do not remember Ms. Ford.
Do you now understand that with all you don't remember, that an investigation by the FBI as to whether or not there was excessive drinking, as to whether or not girls from her school did attend any of those, would be warranted in this case, since you can't provide us with anything except I didn't do it?
Again, I'm going to refer you to other folks who have that discretion. It's not my place to decide.
And you will not state for the record here to this country and the citizens of this country that you support an investigation? You will not state that. All you'll say is...
Asked and answered, Mr. Koussouris. Right. Doug, commence the beatdown.
Wait, but first, before I ask questions, you got to realize that for some reason everybody thinks that the end game here is one of these people is lying and the other one is telling the truth. And that may not be what's going on here. It may be that somebody is looking at the facts of something that occurred 35 years ago and is interpreting those facts a different way today.
But I've heard someone else say that. Isn't that completely not true in that one person is alleging not that there was two different views of the same story. One person said that they were sexually assaulted. The person attempted to muzzle them so no one would hear their screams. And the other person claims they don't even remember the existence of that human. Somebody's not telling the truth.
It's possible that he doesn't remember this. It's possible that what she's describing is what happened, and she's saying it's an assault. It's possible at the time he believed that it was consensual behavior.
But he says he doesn't even remember her existence.
But that may be true. That may be true, but at the time, we're talking about 35 years ago. But I'll ask you the questions, but I don't want you to interpret this as in some way thinking that what happened was all right.
So a caveat, let me do the TV term. Doug's just playing the role assigned.
But,
yes.
But listen,
yes.
we all lived through Duke lacrosse too, so let's remember that. Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah, nobody knows. Okay, please describe how you knew Brett Kavanaugh before the incident.
I didn't. I met him at the party.
So this is the first time and last time you've ever seen him?
And again, I'm definitely getting into territory where my make-believe role here is way beyond my depth. I don't know if she did not know the person, but we should go through the questions because I don't know how she would answer these. Okay,
if she said that's the first time she'd ever seen him, you'd have to ask her a lot of questions about how dark the room is. My next question was, did you drink alcohol or take drugs prior to the alleged incident? If she says yes to that, that has a lot to do whether she knew him before the fact. Do you understand?
But isn't there a risk, Doug, if she says, yeah, I had a couple drinks, then she says, But are you saying that that's excusing
That's
his
not-
assault here?
That directly impacts on her ability to perceive what was going on at that time.
And he could then follow it up with, might you be misinterpreting what his intentions were?
Right. Next question I have, why did you not report the incident when it occurred?
I was 15 years old. It was an embarrassing. It was embarrassing that it happened. I was worried about being stigmatized. I didn't even want my parents to know I was in a place where I shouldn't have been, let alone where drugs or alcohol was being consumed.
Understood. When you left the room where the alleged assault took place, were you visibly upset, crying?
The answer, I believe, would be yes, because we already have another person, a classmate of hers, who says, I knew of the incident then.
Okay.
Yes.
The follow-up would be, did any other party goer notice that you were upset?
Yes.
If they did at the time, I guess that would be relevant.
Yeah.
You want to speak to that person. Okay, when you left the room where the alleged assault took place, did you immediately leave the party?
I don't know what she'll
Okay.
say. Yep.
That depends. And how did you get home, and who took you home? Because that would be a person potentially who could talk about a recent outcry
Yeah.
if it occurred. When you were pushed into the room, she describes being pushed, did you scream or protest in any way?
I did, and they turned up the volume to muffle the screams, and he put his hand over my mouth so no one would hear
When
me.
you were pushed into the room, you said they turned up the volume. When you were pushed into the room, the turning up happened later. So when you were pushed into the room, did you scream or protest?
The
And
answer
it's a
would be, I
party.
didn't know what they were doing.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But listen, when did you first report the incident to another person?
I in couples therapy, what was it, 6 years ago?
Okay.
And you want to know if she reported it to her friend who said she knew of the
And
incident.
here's the main question. If you were concerned, were you concerned that you were going to be raped or inadvertently killed?
She says yes.
Okay. Were you not concerned that he would do this to another person?
I was a kid. I was overwhelmed by the incident. I didn't want to.
You were a kid at the time,
Yeah.
but 35 years have gone by.
Yeah.
Why today? You're bringing it up for a reason. If you were concerned,
It will be dramatic theater if this happens. I'm with you. I think if anyone expects a Perry Mason moment, they're kidding
But
themselves.
all of these questions
Yep.
support an FBI investigation. You know, the notion that all the FBI is going to do is ask each party whether they're telling the truth is ridiculous. There were other people.
The
There's a
thing that
lot of
I'm
other
just
people
saying
to
is,
talk
people,
to.
take your political blinders aside. We did this before. In '91, they did an FBI investigation. It took 3 days in the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas, and they still were able to do it. We went more than a year without a ninth justice on the bench. We can go one more week. Anyway,
There's
my
plenty
2
of time.
cents.
There's plenty of time.
Up next, financial crisis. It started 10 years ago, but not a single banking exec went to prison in the years since. We're going to take a look at whether or not that was a miscarriage of justice, or at the end, there just wasn't enough behind bars.